Okay, let me welcome you very much to a session on the relationships, economic and political ones, between Europe and Saudi Arabia, which is, of course, very pertinent given the economic and geopolitical situation, which we've been discussing in Davos. It's calling Redefining Economic Partnership from Dialogue to Delivery. So I think it's very important to think about that second part. Let's see how far we can get. We don't have a lot of time. Thank you all for being here. I think it's a great panel. His Excellency Faisal Al-Ibrahim is here, the German Economics Minister Katharina Reicher, Minister Romanski from Poland, and of course Commissioner Sikela. And we have 3 Europeans and 1 Saudi on the panel, so I hope, Faisal, that's okay. His Excellency, I hope that is okay. And I just want to make just 1 or 2 remarks. I think this is obviously, as I was alluding to, I think there's 2 dual things which are important if you think about, if I may say that, think about Europe and regions like Saudi Arabia, which is of course a very dynamic and a very innovative region. One is this competitiveness and growth, sort of how can we, and this is a big debate we're doing in Europe, which all the Europeans are very much involved in, including regulatory issues. How can we get our strength back, our economic strength? And that's an internal issue to some extent, but of course then there's also the question which relates also to geopolitics and some of the things we've been witnessing the last few days. There's a European Council meeting today, actually. Yeah. So how do we actually position ourselves with the rest of the world, as I look at it from the European point of view? And of course, then sort of regions like Saudi Arabia and others, we've done other trade deals with other regions of the world. I think that's very important. So it's important from an economic and from a geopolitical, if I may say so, issue. And I think here we like to get the wisdom on that. I think on Saudi Arabia, which I know less about, of course, that's a region which is speaking under your control, very dynamic, incredibly many things are happening. Energy is a big issue. Energy partnerships is a big issue. But there's also this idea of Saudi Arabia, which you know better as a platform, sort of integrating different things. And I think that's also very important, I think, for the Europeans, if I may say so. And the third one is access to the region. I think this is also an important part that Saudi Arabia is, of course, in a very, both geopolitically and economically, a very important region. So we'd like to explore that with the speakers. And His Excellency Faisal said he submits to the guests here at the Saudi House to speak first. So we have a couple of issues. So let me first turn to the German Economics Minister Katharina Reicher about that issue. How do you see the relationship? If I may say so, I think there's a trip to Saudi Arabia coming up, which you're doing, I think, even next week with the economic delegation. And sort of in terms of solving this productivity and growth part or issue of Europe and Germany in particular, how do you see the relationship with Saudi Arabia and what are the opportunities here? Please, Minister.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Excellency, for having us here. Thank you, Professor Roller, for moderating, and thank you also to my European colleagues. The spirit of Davos has always been staying in dialogue and staying engaged. What's definitely true and stays true. But I want to add something. We have to come from dialogue to action. We have to come from talking to executing. And we have to come from debating to delivering reforms and progress. We see tectonic changes on the global landscape. We see our partner United States with a changed foreign and security policy. We see China as an economic superpower right now. We see growing middle powers, and we see ourselves as a continent with definite strength, but also the need to go under reforms. When partnerships are shaken, we have to deepen and to seek actively for new partnerships. Saudi Arabia is definitely not a new partner, it's a long-term partner. Germany alone, we made a trade, have a trade volume of 10 billion plus. More than 100 companies are invested in your country. And in the larger region, it is much, much more. And the main task I take from Davos is to show as a continent and to show as Germany that we actively go out, play on our strength, but also strengthens the weaknesses we have, and I'm sure we will talk about this later.
Yeah. So let me turn to Minister Domanski, looking at it from maybe your finance and economics minister. Obviously, there are lots of issues on both of these dimensions. How do you see the relationship with Saudi Arabia?
Yes, first of all, thank you for the invitation. It's really great to be here and discuss both our relation as well as probably the most pressing geopolitical issues. So I believe that facts speak better than words, and how our relations are accelerating. It's just a week after Minister Reiche will be in Saudi Arabia. Poland, actually, I will bring 68 companies to Riyadh to make not words but actions, sign agreements, make very concrete decisions. So thank you for this invitation. And world is changing. The easy globalization that we witnessed in the 90s and beginning of the 21st century is over. We are moving to the regionalization, shortening the value chains, and the logic of cost cutting and focusing only on cost is switched into the logic of security, resilience, and mutual understanding. That's, I believe, important in shaping our relation. And right now, Poland, actually last year, Poland entered the group of the 20 biggest economies in the world. We are, of course, proud of that. We were invited by President Trump to participate in G20 group meetings. Having said that, we do know that in this challenging world, developing relations with partners outside EU is probably even more important than ever. We need to look for new markets, as our relation with Germany is very good and trade is strong, but definitely we need kind of diversification. So that's how I see our relation, and this is of course only this economical front. There are others, but probably we'll discuss them on the other meeting.
Let's focus more on the economic issues, but it's very interesting that you're also going to Saudi Arabia with a business delegation shortly.
Yes.
So let me ask a provocative question before we go to the Commission. So are you going there as Polish economics minister, or are you representing Europe when you go there?
No, I'm going there as a Polish
Okay.
economic minister, bringing 68 Polish companies with me.
Okay.
But of course we always represent Europe to some
Yes.
extent as well, yes. And we, especially in this external relation, we have very, especially with Germany, we have very similar approach.
Yes. And before I go, Mrs. Reiche, so in the past, the relationship has not always been smooth between Europe and Germany and Saudi Arabia. We've had our ups and downs, if I may say so. But you feel like, given the current situation, also the geopolitical situation, that this is a new era between the two countries. You mentioned trade is actually already, I think, relatively high, but I think there's potential to increase this even further. So is the, if I may ask that, if sort of the approach of Germany or maybe even Europe, and I'll come to the Commissioner, sorry, in a second, are you having a new look at, Saudi Arabia with this German government now, or how do you see that?
When I look at my delegation, which contains from our big ships like Siemens Energy, TKNS, SAP, I come with a lot of startups from defense tech over satellites and others. Why I do this? Because Saudi Arabia makes a tremendous progress in also diversifying its own economy. And we have to recognize this. That is a huge potential. I just had the opportunity to look at the digital heart of our economy. So it is amazing how the country is driven by KPIs, looking in every sector, seeing the interconnections, and that is something we can grow together. Of course, there are those partnerships which has been established and we have to deepen, that is energy, raw materials, and at the other side, Saudi Arabia, but I'm in the position to speak for your country, Excellency. But the invitation for investing also in production, manufacturing, new technologies is huge, and I think we should use this as opportunity. And maybe I top this. So right after me, the Chancellor will come also to see Saudi Arabia. Why?
You see, now you have to...
So now you're challenged. So now you're challenged. He does 3 countries in the region to demonstrate how the German government put a lot of effort in strengthening the relations to the region and especially to Saudi Arabia.
Very interesting.
Sorry.
I don't want to test you, but do you know when last time a German economics minister visited Saudi Arabia? It's been a while, right? Sort of, or even a chancellor. I think it's been a while.
Okay, I'm not a historian, so I'm going now.
Okay, that's okay, good. Commissioner, you're in charge of external relations. I know that diversification is a big goal by President von der Leyen. We were trying to sign the deal or seal the deal with Mercosur. I understand it's not quite there yet. India is there, but Saudi Arabia is another very important region. What's the strategy of the Commission on that one?
Well, I will start with, I've been to Riyadh recently, and we have an excellent exchange.
With a business delegation? Or?
No, I was a speaker on a very important and well-organized conference there. But of course, Saudi Arabia, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is not within my portfolio, but is a very welcome partner, basically to help or to together invest in sustainable projects, and we have overlapping points. We have the neighborhood, we have the whole MENA region where we can do plenty of things together. But coming back to your question, this is my 5th Davos. The first one was the spring version, or the early summer. This is 3.5 years ago, where basically the Russian war of aggression was basically the main point of agenda. In my eyes, probably this one is the most nervous one. And basically conflicts, interlinkages, vulnerabilities has become like a daily issue. And instead of like a multilateralism, peace, collaboration, and in this new world, economic tools and might are being used to advance strategic objectives, from disruptive tariffs to the weaponization of dependencies. And I think it puts all of our security and competitiveness of risk. And we have only 2 ways how to tackle this. This is like a certain domestic capacity building and strengthening our domestic policies and competitiveness. This is about our competitiveness compass and the priorities for the next 5 years. Innovation gap, decarbonization of our economies, and reducing our dependence. And on the other side, this is the external dimension. These are the international partnerships, because not all the countries, and I think, here is Saudi Arabia, or very like-minded, do not want to accept this approach without rules. And I I think these partnerships, to deepen the partnerships and to diversify them with a like-minded, trusted and reliable partner, this is basically the way how to respond. And the Global Gateway Investment Agenda is one of the waves. And why these partnerships are important? Most countries around the world are vulnerable to these predatory and aggressive practices we see multiplying today. And all of them are looking to strengthen their resilience to such methods. And yet, none of us can do it alone. So we must find ways to partner in a transactional and investment-driven world. So I do not believe in zero-sum games. I've been 30 years banker, and I believe that basically only like a beneficial relationship for all involved partners has a long-term future. And when it comes to partnership with EU and Saudi Arabia, we are really keen to work with Kingdom on this journey. There are great synergies between our competitiveness plan and the Kingdom Vision 2030. And when I was visiting some of the institutions and seeing basically the column of the all sustainable development goals, symbolizing what is basically the main target of these institutions, it was perfectly fitting basically to our understanding how the world should develop. And then boosting connectivity between the regions is key to reinforce economic resilience, to strengthen trade links, and generate investors' confidence. And the EU and Saudi Arabia have both committed, for example, to India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, the IMEC, which has the great potential to deepen the links between our economies. Or the other example, how we can join forces for strengthening sustainable development around the world in the future is the Horn of Africa initiative, where we also aim to cooperate together. And this initiative brings together ministers of finance from the region, the EU, Germany, UK, the World Bank, and the African Development Bank. All together, we have already mobilized 11 billion in support to projects in this region. And the Saudi Development Fund and the Islamic Development Bank and the Arab Bank for Economic Development in Africa have participated several times as observers, and the ministers from Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates have also been invited. So this is basically the way how to cooperate and how to basically contribute in this shaky and very much fragmented world to more stability and predictability. And this is basically the things the investors are looking for.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. But if I may say sort of a remark from the side is that there's all these initiatives, Global Gateway and all these things at the Commission level, which of course are important. But I think it's, as the Minister has said, is that also we need to move to action and we need to actually do things. And I'm not criticizing the Commission, and there's also the regulatory part of Europe, which is an impediment or an issue at least for us, but also of course for foreign direct investment. But I think, if I may say so, as an outsider, used to be in government, that sort of speed and action is very important, and there we need to work together. And I think, as you say, this is very important. I think the other part is doing something together in another region of the world is also interesting. This is also an interesting issue which we have with other regions of the world. So let me thank you. So now, His Excellency Al Ibrahim, you've been to Europe many, many times, to Berlin, and also to Brussels, and you are a big proponent, of course, of economic cooperation and development. You're doing a remarkable job in Saudi Arabia. So you'll have the visit now, and what is the way? Also, maybe be a bit challenges? Where are the challenges in that relationship? Because we've been, let me say again something politically not quite. We've been lecturing you for many, many years, also as a country, and now I think we're trying to get a practical relationship going, which is not easy. But what are your thoughts on that?
Sure. I was gonna quickly respond, say now we're lecturing you, but I don't. No, I meant it in a very light way. Hendrik, thank you for doing this, and I want to thank you for the platform you built in Berlin, the Berlin Global Dialogue, through which we were able to get a lot of our messages across and actually learn more about some of the challenges that are going on. Your Excellencies, I thank you for your time. I think we have a very strong partnership with Germany, with Poland, and of course with the EU, and we want to deepen. This is a platform for you to discuss even global issues, so we're very happy to have you here. That's why I insisted that we hear from you first. And after the successful trips you'll have to Saudi Arabia and the trip you had, you'll still owe me 2 or 3 trips because I've visited more than you've visited. But I want to pick up on what you said earlier. This is my 5th Davos as well. And I started in the spring as well. And I was saying last night in a group, in a dinner, the exact same thing. There's a bit of uncertainty that despite going through 5 years of the Russia-Ukraine war, COVID, etc., and the many challenges, this year feels a little bit even more different and more uncertain. And we heard some speakers talk about it. I think one of the main reasons is we focused on growth without focusing enough on collaboration or partnerships. And I want to pick up on, and by the way, Your Excellency, I agree 100% with what you're saying. Year after year, the Saudi delegation is here to make sure we make dialogue count. Dialogue is important. It's unfair to expect that one meeting and one discussion will lead to solving all the problems. But being disciplined in showing up and being focused on being action-oriented, I think and we believe in the Saudi delegation is important. That's why we're always here and we want to continue to engage. But back to this collaboration and partnerships. I think partnerships are important and successful when they solve for and build on trust, not only in calm times, but trust that can endure when there is stress and when there are issues. I think the partnerships that solve for, like Your Excellency said, cost or efficiency or short-term gains, they do not endure. And trust is tested and seen at times that see a lot of challenges. I think in general, we're trying to build more partnerships. Partnerships should have a focus on problems and constraints and friction, not just on frameworks. And we should focus our efforts on actually working together to solve some of these problems. One of the reasons why we've been engaging a lot is we want to deepen our relationship and partnership with Europe. We believe in Europe and the vast and deep knowledge accumulated in Europe as being one of the largest and most dynamic economies. And we think ultimately some of these challenges, and hopefully most of them, will be addressed. At a time where we saw a long-term challenge, we needed to decouple from a single commodity, and we put forward a vision that today, or like in a few weeks, months, will be 10 years old. And it feels like still day 1 or day 2 or year 1 or year 2. It is something that we are very disciplined about. A lot of success accomplished, a lot of milestones, but also a lot of lessons learned. And part of our approach is deepening our partnerships with Europe and with a variety, if not all, of the European countries. I remember I gave you a lot of trouble on CS3D and CSRD and CBAM. I know we talked, by the way, Dima there is standing because she wants to make sure I say it, even if I get into trouble. But
I was going to ask you about that too.
We're pushing, and I tell my team, I feel I pushed so much, I felt I'm in the parliament or I'm going to receive a European passport any minute now via mail. But it's because we value this partnership, and we value being honest and being transparent and being constructive. The last thing we want to see is Saudi Arabia or the GCC not exporting to Europe. Forget exporting. We don't want to see these GCC and Saudi-based companies to divest from Europe. We have invested, various companies have invested in Europe because they saw opportunities. These opportunities are good for these companies, and as such, our local economies but they also created jobs, like in Poland and other countries. We want more integration, not less. That's why we're pursuing the FTA, and we're going to increase our pace there and fixing and repairing some of the challenges we have with the FTA. So I'd say more globally, and I think we have a very strong potential that we've discussed several times with you, Your Excellency, and as well His Excellency the Commissioner, about unlocking the potential of the relationship between Saudi Arabia and Europe, and we're very proud of that. Not because of the history that we have together, but in the potential we feel and we believe, we all see to be unlocked. More globally, I think back to focusing on growth, less on collaboration. I think, for example, what the US is doing is a result of it seeking to unlock its economic potential. And I believe there is a world where every country can unlock its economic potential and still keep dialogue open and collaboration, and still seek reforming the world order or enhancing it or fixing where it failed in the past. And I think one of the reasons why this hasn't happened is that somehow a culture of not truly listening to every voice creeped. Yes, we listen performatively so we don't feel uncomfortable in meetings, but really listening to every voice. There is more than one way, for example, to achieve the energy transition. There is more than one way to shrink the gap between nations that have access to digital infrastructure and nations that don't. If we don't listen to all of these voices and work together genuinely, collaboratively, we will leave some out. And leaving some out for a long time will lead them to react in a manner that may disrupt. I think what's upon us is a higher degree of uncertainty, but it's also an opportunity. There's never been a more blank canvas or a more wider opportunity for us to decide, to design what the future looks like. Sorry for the long...
No, this is very good. And I think this notion that I think long-run growth comes through collaboration and listening to each other. I think that's very important. And this is exactly, I think, which may not have happened even in the old world, because that's gone. The speech by Mark Carney, I thought, was quite good in that sense. So, I think that's where we need to go, and that's where you need to go, and you have to implement that, which is not easy. It's actually also very important for the German economy. I'm sure it's important for the Polish economy, which is actually doing quite well, I think, compared to at least currently in terms of growth numbers. I just had if you want to respond to that, I just had a follow-up question on regulation, because I talked to a Saudi company yesterday, and they've been very concerned about the triple D, and you've been in CSRD, and I think one is supply chain, the other one is sustainability reporting, and they've withdrawn from Europe because of that. Okay, that's at least some, and I think also our chemical industry is, as you know, Minister Reiche. And then I say, okay, fine, then you produce the stuff here and you export it, at least do that, It was in the using renewable energy and then sending the chemical compound to Europe. And then, now there's CBAM, which also, but I think CBAM we're still in the process of negotiating. Yeah. So maybe that is a topic where we can help also moving these things forward. I don't want to respond to that, Mr. Minister Reiche. And also what he said.
Yeah, so His Excellency definitely have a point. The European Union has never been perfect, and it's a complex structure we have constantly to work on. But I think we overdone it with regulation. Regulation nowadays prohibits to found a company, to develop a company, to invest, to grow. And I'm with you, there might be certain ways to achieve the same goal. And that is something, for instance, Poland and Germany together pushing to not only reduce a little bit and change slightly some of the regulation. No, we really have to cut regulation. Otherwise, the attractiveness of this continent will be less over time. And that is a process which doesn't happen overnight, but it happens slowly. And that I'm right can I give the example of my own country. We have seen a development that since 2015, there were less investments in Germany than outside. So capital flew out of the country.
That's right.
And a decision, especially when it comes to chemical production side, to steel mill, to car production, that are investments that last for 15, 20 plus years. If this investment had gone, it won't come back for the next quarter of a century. And we underestimated this effect. And that's why it's completely fair not only to discuss a regulation if it would support or harm European economy, it ultimately affects our partners. And to be honest, what you criticized, and you were right, to CSDDD and methane regulation and CSRD and other regulations are the same voices and arguments I hear from my own companies. And that's why we should pay a lot of attention to this. Second, we have different economic growth and dynamics. When I meet my Polish colleague, and I think we have met now 4 or 5 times already in the last half year, I praise the entrepreneurial spirit in Poland, the growth and the willingness to compete, the willingness to be champion. And that is something Germany has to come back. And that's why I think it's good that we go there in a row, pushing us, but at the same time representing, of course, a continent. A lot of companies which are active in Germany are invested in Poland and vice versa. And also here, the investment of Saudi Arabia helps our company to grow. So the capital you invest here at equity helps company here also to overcome times of weaknesses, and you have been a very reliable partner.
Yeah, so I think that's very important also what His Excellency said. Also learning from other countries and using that, I think, is something which doesn't show weakness, actually shows a strength.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think the regulatory environment is an issue. And I think, if I may say so, Minister Reiche is a big proponent of that in the German government. And but the problem is, it's not exactly a new topic either. Just the sort of the urgency has increased, but it was quite obvious even 4 or 5 years ago, by the way, when I was in government, that we were doing a lot. We had very different views in Europe, and of course that's always a big problem, or an asset maybe. My problem is only we're doing things, but are we doing it fast enough for the way the world is changing?
Exactly.
And that's what I'm worried about, looking at it from the outside. But I comment what you're doing, but the world is changing pretty fast, and you just look at their region. Minister Domanski, and then also the commissioner, as I'm sure you would agree with many of these things. And you're also the finance minister. So let me also, I read recently that Saudi Arabia Finance Authority just liberalized the investment, so it's more of a finance topic, capital investment restrictions of foreign capital into Saudi Arabia.
Stock market.
The stock market,
Capital market authority.
which I'm sure was a decision which was elaborated on, but then deliberately taken, because it's not. And we are working on the capital market union or savings investment. You are, I guess, the finance ministers for many years. That's also a regulatory issue. Or actually, the common markets we're just too slow. How do you see that?
Let me just quickly refer to what Minister Reiche just said, and then I will follow with Savings and Investment Union, because I will defend Europe, because I truly believe that in Europe we have everything that's needed to be an economic superpower, not just a regulatory one. We have people, we have universities, we have really promising companies, we have capital. We have capital, but very often poorly deployed.
That's right.
So everything is here. The problem is that very often we
have
use
rule
those
of law, by
assets
the way,
wrongly. tax, but you need to allocate at least 75% of those assets on the stock exchange, because we want our stock exchange to have more important role in economy. Our market capitalization to GDP is only 22%, only 22, and in US they have much above 100%. So the weakness of the capital market is one of the problem that we are not growing as fast as
energy, digital connectivity, critical raw materials, and people-to-people contacts. And you know, Europe is the biggest investor in Saudi Arabia, and on the other side, there are plenty of things where we collaborate, like education, like a Erasmus program. On interest to eliminate potential threats in the future. We need a desalination, more electricity in the whole MENA region, because will be much higher. And these are basically the points which are connecting.
Okay, very good. So that was your concluding statement, which was great. So I'll now close with Faisal and ask everybody to respond, and maybe just you know, given the obvious opportunities, and I think it's called from dialogue to delivery. You know, I was just thinking we don't have enough time to discuss all of that. What are some of the deliverables we can have? We talked about it already. So I'm just wondering, so the energies, in concluding statement also, there's energy, we had a lot of discussion yesterday on AI and digitalization in Saudi Arabia. This seems to be an opportunity as well. And then the other issue, of course, there's infrastructure. There are many areas. Your business delegation, you mentioned some of that. Maybe you can just reflect a little more on where these are. And then the other issue is the innovation in general, and also the family-owned businesses. I think this is another issue. We had discussed this before. Aren't they also very important, small and medium-sized companies, in building this relationship? So be a bit more specific in your final statement, and then we'll have to close it. Maybe we'll start with the Minister Domanski.
Thank you.
Sorry, it's not enough time, but...
so I'll be really
Yes.
short. So we know where our strengths are in Poland. We know which sectors we are really good at, and believe that there is room for cooperation. And this is for sure IT, cybersecurity, some spots in AI. Of course, we will discuss energy. This is obvious one. But the construction, and of course, we'd like to have better cooperation in the food sector. It's very important for Poland. We have some discussion regarding some trade relations between EU and other partners, but definitely here we can see room for much more cooperation.
And that's also in your business delegation. When you go, you have those sectors.
Absolutely.
Also smaller companies, or only
we have
both?
Large and medium size. I mean, the startups usually, they still need room and time to develop in Poland.
Yeah. Minister Reiche.
First of all, Europe has an historic chance. And also Germany, and the core of the heart of Europe, has an historic chance to take the uncertainties of the world to build on a reliable partnership. And we shouldn't leave that chance aside. Grab it, hold it, and build on it. When it comes to the next visits and sectors we deepen our cooperation, that is first automotive. May surprise you, but the outreach of Saudi Arabia in investing there, and companies, and it's needless to say that our car companies, one, under pressure, on the other hand, are still top class when it comes to technology. That is one sector. Second is the defense and technology. So the more traditional ones, but also the advanced ones. I mentioned satellites. I could add radar systems. I come with the startups still connecting to our strong universities. We have a very, very strong R&D base. Our STEM graduates in Germany are first top world class, and second, we are leading the rank of all OECD lists. So Germany produces, if I may say so, the most STEM grads in the OECD. Of course, is energy an ongoing question. We could successfully negotiate with the Commission the allowance to invest in 10 gigawatts plus another 2 gas power plants until 2030, and another 22, 24 gigawatts until 35. It's a very important message to security of supply, first, and second, also on long-haul partnerships. Energy is very much related to AI. So AI, data-based economy, we can see this here. We have B2B AI, where we can be world-class if the European Commission helps us to find a better path on protecting data, but please allow B2B AI business and train all language models on our industrial data that will put the continent, due to our industrial power, in a much, much better position. And that is something we cooperate and develop also with Saudi Arabia. So I'm looking very much forward, and my chancellor also does.
So I'll just add, I mean, AI, like you said, Your Excellency, we have the AI will only grow as fast as its infrastructure, energy, land, etc. will. In the kingdom, I think it's clear we have the energy to power it, the capital to scale AI, and the talent to play a bigger role, even leadership role in the value chain. I would add to energy, energy for us is important. We are decoupling from a single commodity price, but we're still be energy leaders. We're the cleanest hydrocarbon producers globally. We have today a more diverse energy mix by design, very competitive in some of these energy options, but also we have an inclusive view in terms of how technology and collaboration can lead to energy transition solutions, a pragmatic view, and we think the more people and countries have that view, the better we can get solutions that matter and the faster we can get there. I would add to all of this and defense technology, healthcare. I think healthcare is very important. The kingdom is it's a continent, it's a large geography. In it, there are 35 million people in terms of population, but any given day of the year, you'll find 40 million people there between visitors and whatnot. And we're very young. 70% are below the age of 35. However, in 18 to 20 years, 25 years, let's say, we will start the aging process. And spending on healthcare will be more important than ever before, and spending wisely on healthcare. This is room for AI and technology and partnerships. And without designing for it over the last few decades, we were able to export a lot of components in healthcare services and products. And some of them very sophisticated ones, including doing very sophisticated robotics surgeries in the capital city of Riyadh, which, by the way, today is around 3 degrees Celsius. So I don't know, when you come to Saudi, check the weather before. It might be not far from Davos, a little bit. But anyways, I think on this point, it's very important to keep in mind that this is happening because a decision was made, a whole of government, whole of nation approach to unlock potential happened. It made us more meaningful partners with you. We believe in Europe, 100%. We believe in the depth of knowledge accumulated and the potential and the success that happened. And I think Vision 2030 is an example of what happens when a country wants to unlock its potential, but is also very genuine and transparent and honest with its partners, and wants its partners to do better so it can do better. We want to compete by doing better, and we want to achieve resilience by everyone else unlocking their potential as well.
Yeah, I think this is a great finishing statement. We're out of time, but I think it obviously shows the opportunities which are there. You have some people here on the podium who are going to be actively implementing some of these things. I like the point about healthcare, by the way. This is an important one. And also AI, of course, for energy transformation, pragmatic energy transformation. And we had a session yesterday on AI and sustainability and all of those, security of supply. I think this is a very important aspect. I wish you much success. I want to thank you for all those projects, from dialogue, which is very important, to, what is it, action, or not, it's not action, called it delivery. So from dialogue to delivery, it's very important. I'm very heartened by what you said. We are open, we believe in Europe. Europe is a strong continent, and I think Europe also needs to open up towards other regions of the world, no matter what their political orientation is, I think. And I think that's very important if you have a pragmatic and honest and long-run view. So thank you again. We didn't have time to get to the audience, but let's give them a hand of applause. Thank you.
Thank you.